our product tests or our researches, we don't just go by, the NCCS classification. We also definitely have these surrogates also. So yeah, that's and also when it comes to education, for example, right? By basis the education of the education or the occupation, you could probably classify somebody as a lower SEC, but the whole the way of education is also changing, right? For example, right? It is not traditional education anymore. You could be not very well educated, but you are skill trained, right? You are, let's say you are a very good in Power BI, you've done some skill, photography course or something. There are so many, courses people are taking these days, but it doesn't necessarily mean, even if you're not like a graduate or whatever, but you are still there, able to make a living, good living, and you could still be in SEC, higher, NCCS. So so those are the parameters we, try to build in when we do any research. Yeah, school dropouts, yeah, of course.
Can I just add one thing? I think that's a very good point that Vinay made, that the danger of relying mainly on the economic part and not the socio part is that it will lead to these kind of anomalies where suddenly consumption might sort of prop up because of reasons, but socio part, the social capital part that you also mentioned, that thing that will be a more everlasting and stable kind of parameter, because I think whatever work that we've seen in other markets, typically, let's say there's a bucket of 10 categories that I can choose from. And if you look at only the economic part, suddenly 3-4 categories might get bought because I have spare money. But if you actually try to capture the social capital, maybe you'll have an impact on all 10 categories over time, which just the economic part won't give you. So I think to that extent, going beyond economic, trying to capture some elements of social capital, that's more progressive and forward-looking, and I feel it will be more stable also from a long-term perspective.
Super. I think we had a great discussion, and just summing up the last part, I think we've figured out that there are lots of challenges that we are having as marketeers today. Socioeconomic classification is one of the key methods in which we can identify our right consumer set. We are grappling, we are figuring out alternates because of the obvious issues that Rajiv called out. Are we really being able to identify, utilize this? Are we really having a social capital definer in our system? I think those are challenges. So there has been an attempt that MRSI had put together. I think there was a team that worked. Mr. Ashutosh Sinha and Praveen Tripathi, I think, started this journey with identification of this need. I think Nitin, Prashant, Sonali, they're in the room. I'm guessing they're all here. They played a significant role in building it from there. We all interacted in some forum or the other discussing the same topic. But what we kind of agree together, whether we are an advertiser or a researcher or a research user or some of the measurement teams, some of whom are not here in this room today, have also agreed to the fact that we need to move on. NCCS is just not being able to help us identify the right consumer for the right requirements. And hence, we as MRSI proposed ISEC. What I'll do is, I don't need to actually present and think you guys covered all the points. But what I'll do is I'll quickly talk you through some 10 slides, talking through why we need to shift to ISEC and what is ISEC all about. Just quickly through these slides. So as we talked about the fact that NCCS was all about ownership of these, whether it's durables, whether it's vehicles, whether it's about agricultural land, etc. See, so if you have the social capital, if you have the economic capital, these are outcomes. And these are things that you start owning, etc. They became the definers. It's not that it's a wrong thing or a right thing. It's just that what happened over time with India shining, Amrit Kal is what we called out. This is all that is happening. So at a fundamental infrastructural level, ownership level, we have seen significant growth in the kind of things that we have as individuals, as households, we've started owning. This got reflected, the previous one is Government of India data, this got reflected in a not recently, 21 conducted baseline by KWP, Kantar World Panel. There also directionally we see that there has been significant growth in the ownership across different things. Hence, I think all of us alluded to this point that we need something which is far more stable, things that or a segmentation process which is actually reflecting the reality. Now, if you see here, this is 2014 versus 22 comparison. What used to be around 50%, 57%, became what Rajiv called out 78%. In urban, it's 83%, that's AB. What vanished and almost vanished, and that's why I was asking Murli, can you find SEC CDE consumers? They are almost evaporated today, especially in the urban centers where we actually do a lot of research, a lot of surveys, a lot of measurements. And if the shift is actually happening from CDE to AB, and that's where the entire chunk, the monolith actually stands, with more than 50% of the market is so-called SEC A. Hence, what is likely to happen is that what used to get consumed by CDE, we would see that it's getting consumed by AB, no? Or E, and moving up to CD. But and we'll see the reflection of all of that in some of the categories that we have taken here. These are penetration levels of, let's say, mass toilet soaps among SEC E. Now you see the similar number among SEC CD. So what do we conclude as a marketeer? Are consumers of CD now downtrading to mass toilet soaps? Or is this, so hence, is this a reality? Or is this a measurement issue? So that's what led us to think through, because we as researchers, as marketeers, as advertisers, we were struggling to figure out who to talk to with which part of our portfolio. And you will see that not only at the bottom part of the socioeconomic classes, but it's a very similar thing happening when it comes to the upper end of the socioeconomic classes as well. So what used to be the penetration among CD now becomes AB. So are you saying that mass toilet soap now is becoming more penetrated among SEC AB consumers? Are we downtrading? So various such conclusions, erroneous conclusions, are translating into us finding it difficult to take decisions. Hence the ask was to figure out something far more stable, not that something which is around 50% becomes 80% in a very short span of 7 to 8 years. Far more discriminating from a purchase behavior standpoint, attitudinally also, but behavior standpoint. We talked a lot about how behavior is one of the core markers. And then one single definition across urban, rural, very easy, so that Murli does not come back and says it's very difficult to really do this from a survey standpoint. And hence what we did was we tried to figure out how to create a new process of defining socioeconomic classes. Nothing which is extraordinarily different from what we have been as researchers seeing for a long, long time. And then, of course, revalidating using various kinds of data sets, some of which are not marked and mentioned here, but we have run this through the new age data sets, including the zero-party data, etc. Does it make a difference there as well? So what we did was the usual. We took income, we took consumer durable, which we saw is kind of non-discriminating, and amenities. And of course, none of us in this room would divulge our income to a third-party unknown individual today. But so that had its own set of fallacies. Similarly, we thought, okay, let's look at some other parameters, and those are marked here. And these variables had very, very weak relationship as far as ability to discriminate consumers and their behavior. And we ended up with our known devils, which is occupation and education. But there was a difference in the way we looked at occupation and education. So what we did was we did multiple combinations of occupation and education, and both as single variables as well as in combination variables. And what we ended, so we looked at the chief wage earner, we looked at the highest educated adult male of the house, highest educated adult female of the house, looked at combinations, which is giving us the best result. And the famous Gini coefficient, which is actually talking about the fact that India is moving towards close to 1, because there's a lot of inequality somewhere or the other. It's a different topic altogether. I don't want to touch that. But what came back was very, very interesting. What came back is that the so-called social capital got defined by the education of the lady of the house. And we actually believe that that made a significant difference when it came to the choices made in the household. Need not always be the most expensive product that comes to the house, but also from a need standpoint. And that I think as a marketer is very, very important to understand that the relevance of the refined needs. Now, does that have a relationship with this defining parameter called the social capital of or the education of the lady of the house? That made a significant difference. So you see the combination effect on the last, which is the occupation of the chief wage earner, the education of the adult male of the house, and the education of the adult female of the house. And it's a combination factor which gave us the most discriminating definer, and hence that's the ISEC. We went back to 2019. Unfortunately, that is still the grid that we use for our SEC, or so-called the NCCS weights that are used in all kinds of measurements, surveys, etc., including our Rajiv 38,000 television, around 40,000 odd crore, 40,000 odd crore of television spends, and hence the entire buying and selling happens on this. So we went back to 2019, and this is how NCCS looks like. And the ISEC with the new definition that we are talking about. The shape of the curve, however, does not matter much, right? What matters much is that is it really helping us get a more stable definition? And B, is it giving us a more discriminating way of looking at consumers? So we'll first look at the stability part. On the left that we see here is NCCS. We saw this number a few minutes back. And what you see on your right is actually ISEC, same time period, 2014, 2022. What was 32 became 50. What was 35 became 41. So is there a shift? Yes, there is a shift, but is it more stable? Definitely more. So is ISEC a more stable system? Is it reducing the volatility with which we are grappling with today? Significantly, yes. Does it hold true across pop strata, across markets? We've, of course, tested out for all of that. This we looked at all pop strata and whether different types of town classes and so on and so forth, right down to the rural, which was in the previous slide. Murli, just to give you a little bit of confidence, very, very easy to administer this in the field. I think a large part of this is actually covered in our census today. So hopefully in the next census, and with the help of MRSI and the people we know around, and with you all, maybe we can add and have all these questions there so that we have the biggest baseline possible going forward, because baseline is a difficult area, and I think that would help us going forward. The other good thing, and which Amit was talking about, is that is it going to give us and he talked about UK as an example of 20 years plus, same definition. Is there enough headroom, or are we going to hit the same issue that